Awesome. Uh, Thanks for coming to our awesome presentation on what's new in Android Studio Electric Eel. My name is Sweetie Bordala. I work for Comcast as a principal software engineer working on IoT features using MQTT.
Sagar, can you give us okay to
Oh, what was the question again, Linda?
Okay to start.
Yeah, I already gave the okay to start.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Loud and
cool. Kyle, you want to introduce yourself? Kyle, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm not sure why my computer mic's not working. Can you hear me okay now?
Yep, yep.
Okay. Sorry about that. My name's Kyle Lehman. A principal engineer at Comcast. I work on one of our infrastructure squads. Doing
Kyle, we cannot hear you.
you you can't hear me?
I can hear
we,
you.
we can. There's a delay. We can.
Okay. Yeah. So I work on an infrastructure squad. We're kind of our kind of task is just to scale kind of our operation for the many different feature squads that are working on our flagship Xfinity application. So I wanted to kind of give a quick backstory of this talk. I working on an infrastructure squad and kind of tend to do a lot of our updating of some of our utilities and tools and build system and stuff like that. So one of the things that includes in an Android developer's work stream is the Android Gradle plugins and making sure it's compatible with our project, and also we can use the latest versions. And actually, so I made a mistake once assuming that everybody is always on the latest version or updates when latest versions come out. And I updated our Android Gradle plugin, which required the latest version of Dolphin, and I submitted it for review, got accepted, and merged it, and then an hour later everybody's like, I can't build because it's complaining, and I got like all these messages saying what happened. And it turns out everybody was still on older versions of Android Studio. And so I got a little bit smarter next time, and I figured I'd do a little bit of marketing of it. So I put a post out to our team on our Slack channel and said, hey, here are all the new features, please check them out, please update, because I wanted, selfishly was trying to get us to get onto the latest version of the Gradle plugin. So once I put this out, Sweetie reached out to me and said, hey, this is a great idea, let's do a code lab on it, and let's try the new features. um, and she even said, earlier today that if it wasn't for this, me putting this message, she wouldn't have updated to it. And rightfully so. I think people do tend to be scared too, just because you're doing feature work. As a professional, you're trying to get your day job done, and if you update, who knows what's going to happen? You might get stuck, and then you can't finish what you were going to be tasked with. So we'll hopefully kind of help you balance the idea of why you want to update, and also what you can do to make sure it's going to be a smooth update. um, but before that, let's get into, I want to talk about the Android Studio version numbering, because it's kind of confusing and it's changed in the recent years. So just wanted to do a quick refresher on that. Can I get next slide, sweetie?
Oh, we cannot see your screen now.
Sweetie?
You can't see my screen?
Nope.
I'm still sharing. Okay, let me share again. What are you seeing? Are you able to see my screen now?
No.
Nope.
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah,
Refresh your page. We can see your.
You
you
could
can.
see it.
Okay, I'm going to
I
share again. Let me know. Are you able to see now?
Yes, we can see it. Yes, yes.
you I think Linda, I think you can, but I
Sagar,
can't.
refresh your screen, Sagar. We can see it.
Okay, yeah. Let me try refresh.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, sorry. All right, yeah, I can see your screen now.
Cool.
So yeah, so Android Studio number version, naming versions, version numbering changed in recent years. So I think it started around maybe Arctic Fox, if anybody's familiar with that, about
Now
2021.
here comes.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So they changed from a versioning numbering where it used to be very tightly coupled between the Android Gradle plugin, which is the actual tools for writing your build scripts and compiling your Android applications, and the Android Studio, which is the IDE. If you aren't aware, Android Studio is based off IntelliJ IDEA, which is another IDE developing tool by JetBrains. And so what their change in this recent years was it got a little bit more complicated in its versioning scheme, but it added, there was reasoning behind that. So since the Android Studio, um, the IntelliJ IDEA platform, they've tried to align closer with their versions because there would be cheat code. They basically maintain a fork of it, and they pick up features every so often. So if you're running IntelliJ IDEA, you might see newer features before you see them in Android Studio. But so now they're trying to keep a line sooner and kind of make sure you know which one's version. So take for instance, the old version was 4.3. In the new system, they have this years versus major releases, and then patches, and then they also made it fun by adding an animal to as a code name. I suspect that this is something to do with um, the Android developers being upset that they got the desserts taken away from them for the Android release code name, so they wanted to come up with another fun thing to name. But so yeah, so that started with Arctic Fox. Then it was Bumblebee. What was after that? Something I forget what C was. Then Dolphin, and now onto Electric Eel. So Electric Eel, sweetie, you want to go to the next slide? Came out, was announced about I want to say a month ago or so now, right around the holidays and the new year. And there was a lot of neat features in it. So that's what we kind of want to dive into, of what's kind of changed and what abilities they have now. So some of the new things is that we're going to talk about is resizable emulators, Crashlytics integration with crash reporting analysis right inside the application, the new Logcat, which has gotten a refresh for the first time since Android Studio was launched, device mirroring, layout validations, compose preview, and then I'm going to get into some what's kind of coming down the pipelines in the next releases of Android Studio, what to look forward to, and a tool to hopefully help you experiment with it without being concerned you're going to screw something up. All right, I'll let Sweetie go into the emulators first.
Thank you. Thank you, Kyle. So let's talk about resizable emulator. So when you're building an app and you're trying to run it, you can build what an Android phone, right? Then if you want to build the same thing and try it out on a tablet, then again you have to create a new emulator device and try it on a tablet. So with this cool feature that they have introduced, like you can see the same time how it looks on a phone and unfolded foldable and also in a tablet. For this, you need to download a tiramisu system image. For those who are thinking to eat tiramisu after this, even I'm thinking the same. With that, let's go and see a quick demo on how this works. Um, We play this. So here you can see I have a simple text view and a button. I'm just trying to go and run this. So I'm going to go to the tools and I'm going to create the device manager. Click on the device manager. So here you can go and click on the create device. This is the usual way you do it. And you can see there is something called Resizable Emulator, which is an experimental phase. So you might see some glitches in it, but it is cool to try it out. So you probably have to download the Tiramisu system image if you're not. Since I've already downloaded it, it was pretty quick. So here I'm just going and updating the name for this. And then quickly, let's go and run this app. So I have my app. I want to go and run this on this resizable experimental one. So let's quickly go and run this app. So here you can see I can select phone. Let me quickly pause here. So you can see here, right? So when I go and click on that phone icon, I can see I can select phone or unfolded, foldable or tablet. So that way I can see the same UI in three different devices. So when I run here, I can go and see it on, quickly go to the build. So here you can see how it looks like on a phone. So it all looks good. I have a text view and a button. It's all aligned pretty good. I have no problems with it. But now I want to check how it looks on a tablet. Um, and that's where I see my button is not aligned. So this is very helpful for a developer who's developing, and I can immediately see when I'm supporting multiple devices, like I can see how it is looking different on both. One of the thing I noticed is it's a little bit hard to change to unfolded foldable, but when I launch again, it shows in that. It was easy to switch between phone and tablet. With that, let's go talk about Crashlytics. So if you've not heard about Crashlytics, so Crashlytics is one of the feature provided by Firebase. So you know you might have probably heard of Firebase. It's a software tool that provides a lot of cool features with it, and one of them is Crashlytics. So Crashlytics is the crash reporting tool. So when you have any crashes or you see some non-fatal errors or ANRs, all those will be collected and pass to the Firebase console where you can go and see all the crash reports. There is a link I have added for you to go and actually try it out, Firebase Crashlytics, if you're not at played around with it. But this has been there already. Then you might ask, what is the difference? Like it's already there, Crashlytics. What is the difference? Now you can see the crash report in Android Studio in Electric Eel, which is the coolest feature right now we are going to see. So how do I do that? You have to start adding the SDK. So the one way you can do is you can go to Android Studio Tools menu and select Firebase. So if you select Firebase, you'll see a lot of list of features that is supported by Firebase will be there. Go and pick Crashlytics and follow the steps you need to do that. So once you're done that, you should be able to see the report in a bottom panel called App Quality Insights. It should be already available. If you're not able to see it, you can also launch it by going to the view menu, tools window, and app quality insight. So that way also you can reach it. So once you're done that, it will give you the steps probably how you have to integrate Firebase if you're not integrated Firebase at all, and then what SDK you need to add for Crashlytics. Once you're done that, you can see the reports both in Firebase console, which is already there, and now in Android Studio as well. So it is easier to click on it and launch the activity or the fragment or the compose view which is being crashing. Let's quickly see a demo how I did that. So here I have a very simple app, and I want to see how it works on Crashlytics. So here I am going to the tools window menu and trying to open the app quality insights. I'm already in the tab kind of, so it is launching that. It says, hey, you're not connected to Firebase at all because this is a very fresh app. I don't have any Firebase integrated with it. So I click on it. This is going to tell me what I need to do. So you can follow the steps here. It says first thing is you're not connected to Firebase, go ahead and connect it. So I clicked on it. I go and add project. It kind of pulls in what my project name is. That's pretty cool. And I just follow the steps there. I go and continue. And with that, um, like I accept all the terms and conditions, and then if I go and create a project, you should see that, hey, I'm creating a project, please wait. With that, it finishes up. And once it is done, you should be able to see something on your left, like now your Android project and Firebase are able to talk to each other. The main thing which helps your Android Studio and Firebase to talk, it will actually give you a JSON file which will add all the IDs, your app IDs and Firebase IDs, so they can talk to each other. The cool part of me launching from Android Studio to do that, all that is already there in my Android Studio. That was pretty cool. When I went and checked it, my app folder already had that JSON file integrated and done. So once that is done, it will tell you, yes, I'm connected. The second part is you need to add the SDK. So how do I do the SDK? I go click on that button. It will tell me what are the SDK I needed to add. But the other part is it will also ask, do you want to accept the changes? That means it will automatically go and add all the SDK dependencies that's needed for Crashlytics. You do give accept changes, then you would see this, that, hey, you're good to go. It's all done. With that, let's see a demo of how I can crash and see the reports. So I have a simple app here, and it doesn't do anything. It just have a button, and the button is going to crash. So I go click on that button, and it crashes. Now I go to my app quality insights tab, and I can see all the report that is there. So I can refresh to get the latest. So here I just did two crashes. So it is giving me what is the crash, what is the stack trace of the crash, and where it is crashed. And also it is giving me other details like what are the devices it's being crashed, and how many percentage of these devices are noticing it. You should be seeing a pretty good amount when it's been given. You can also launch the console from here. So I just want to see what's in the console of this. You click on it, it will launch you to the Firebase console, which will give you the same amount of details that you saw there, with some extra details like usually what you see in the Firebase console. That I felt was pretty cool to see that. With that, if you're seeing a lot of crashes, you would also get an email report. This is what is that. So after a day, I got an email report. Hey, you seem to be seeing an emerging issue that this specific crash has been happening. So when you're integrated, and if you have, like, for in your company you have like a specific email, so that email will be receiving a report of like saying that, oh, there's been a crash that's been happening for many users. You got to fix that immediately. With that, I will give it to Kyle.
Great. So I'm going to talk about the Logcat window now. This is, yeah, so like I said earlier, this is a major redesign, rethinking about, how to provide power to this tool in a intuitive way, and be more flexible and robust. So some things that they've changed, or the functionality of it and the behavior of it is, one thing is that you can have multiple windows open now, which is really neat. If you want to got a single pane that's just filtering on errors, you can do that while you still have the full feed of stats going on. Or if there's a particular event that you're looking for, you don't need to be previously you would sit there and stare at a blank screen while you're filtering for your string, and only when it hit it did you see something come out. So now you could have a single pane for that, and see kind of the rest of the events still going by, or the rest of the logs. They've changed the query logs, like the ability to filter and search using a key value search. So now you can focus in on time, or the tag, or the actual message, where before it was, your search got applied just broadly across it. You can now have negation, where you can say, hey, I don't want to, I want all the results that are not something, and use regular expressions via like uh, a symbol, and then there's logical operators in parentheses, so a lot more powerful. And it can be a little bit intimidating. I even admit that, like, when it first came out, it was in preview in Dolphin, And I always was intrigued by a new and improved version, but it was definitely hard to get used to because everything the way that it was before was not there for me anymore, and it took some getting used to. But even giving this talk and doing a little bit more research, it made me warm up to it a lot more because of how much it tries to help you, and we'll see an example of that in a minute. But another thing that was a really big change for me, at least, that I was like, this is so much better than it was, is if you used to disconnect from a device that was on your logcat, or you had a crash, or you relaunched the application, you would just see all your logs just disappear, and then like the new ones would start, and or it would just be all blended together. Well, now it kind of injects line like denotion of it, which I'll show an example in a second. But you can actually see the break between when the old instance stopped and the new instance started. So yeah, sweetie, you want to go to the next slide and we'll look at a demo. So here you'll see the new logcat, which comes out in the bottom. One thing you'll notice right away is
Sorry.
So yeah, one thing you'll notice when you do a control space, you'll see all the different keys. These are the key value system that you can search by. So right here, I'm doing a search for a tag, and I'm looking for the jank tag, the NIA jank tag. So you can quickly, it actually does autocomplete, and if you notice the numbers next to it, it'll actually tell you how many results it has in real time. So it's constantly filtering and providing you with feedback right in the system. You can name your searches and star them and save them, so you always have your history, which is comes up in this pane as well. But then you can star them and save them, and also have names for them. So if you have this really complex string that you're looking for, and it's for this unique scenario that you only look at every so often, you can name it something special and then save it for later. Um, you can change the view. So there's the standard view, which is a little bit noisy, but then you can have a compact view, and then you can actually customize both the compact and the standard view by applying different settings for them. So really more robust than it was before with the options of doing things. And here you can see an example where I'm opening a new tab and renaming it to Logcat Warn, and just filtering on the log level warnings. And then you can actually split them and have them side by side. This is on a small screen for demos, but you can think that if you're debugging a situation, or you're trying to understand something that's happening on the device, this can be really handy. And let's see. Then we'll go to the next feature. This one's another really great one. So device mirroring is a new feature where it gives you the ability to mirror physical devices. There's a couple tools that already do this. Visor is one that's really popular, or Screen Copy, which is I think that one's from Jenny Motion, and the other one's like a solo or independent developer does Visor. But it's the nice thing about this is it embeds your mirrored device directly into the IDE. So similar to like Sweetie demoed with the foldable device that was right in side by side to your code. This embeds your physical screen mirrored on your device. So go ahead to the next slide, Sweetie, and we'll see how to set this up. Right now, it's still an experimental feature, so you've got to enable it via the settings. But you can see here, if you go into Tools, there's a new section under the Preferences called Device Mirroring, and you can enable that. And then there's also another feature that's nice, that you can have it turn off the screen when you're mirroring, so your device isn't sitting here. You can't even interact with it on your phone, which is nice. If you don't accidentally touch it here, you can do all your interactions through the screen. Now the device manager will have a new tab where we saw virtual. Now there's a physical tab, and your device that's connected will show up there. And this even works with the Wi-Fi device debugging that was launched a couple of releases ago, where you can debug over a wireless connection. You can break it out and then it can be a single device. You can do all your interactions with the device by sending it, the stop and volume. So the device doesn't even need to be next to you anymore, which is great. And then, like I said about the other one, this is also really great for when you have devices that, have a cracked screen and you don't use anymore. Now it can kind of bring life back into it as being a dedicated test device. All right, and I think that should end this video. Yeah, I think it's just starting over again, sweetie. Now give it back to sweetie.
Thank you, Carl. Oh, that was pretty cool to see the device mirroring. I use Visor, and right now using this device mirroring going to be super easy. With that, let's go to layout validation. So the other cool feature that we were experimenting and cool to see is the layout validation. Is You can see the visual lens of your views and be able to fix them ahead of time instead of like running on the phone and some QAs coming and reporting it. Is really nice. So how do you launch this? So you can go to the view tools window, that's view menu on the Android Studio tools menu, and then the layout validation. If you want to see the layout and qualifiers, it's where you can see the more detailed information of that. You can also launch it through the problem layout and qualifiers. Let's see a quick demo of how this works. So here you can see I have a very simple layout, and I am trying to go to the layout validation, and it's giving me how it looks on different devices. So here is a phone, tablet, and also the desktop. So it's giving me all the different devices that how my layout looks like. And that's pretty cool. And also in this app, you could see that I have created 4 different strings here. So because I want to support localization, so I want to see what are the Spanish files and German, and also have Italian files have been added. Um, Let me continue. So now I go here, I can go to the problems panel and I go to the layout and qualifiers. You should see something called layout validation. That's where it's actually giving you what's the problem in visualizing linked. So here it's saying like your button is too large, right? It's too wide. And it's also giving in this right panel like what is a problem that your button size is recommended size for the width is 320 dB, but you're going beyond that. So it is also giving you that information, which is pretty cool to visualize and immediately fix it. Now you can also go to the top where right now I have selected reference devices. Now I'm going to go and see where OS devices. So right, I can see the same view when I'm supporting a watch device, how it's going to look like. And here I'm going to pause, and you can see that the view, it's not good at all. I kind of imagined when I built it, it's going to be looking good on all devices, but it's not true. And I can visualize it here before even running it on my watch app. So it is again giving me the button is it's hidden. You cannot see the button, and what is the details here? You can see that, and it's telling you that it's partially hidden. Now let's look at the project logo. This is the other cool feature which I really loved, is that every time when we actually support a lot of languages, and every time it's like QA bringing us up, going launching their phone and then going to the settings, changing the local, and then letting us know, hey, this didn't show up properly. But now as a dev, when I'm building it, I can actually see how this text which I gave is been on different locals. So it is giving me all the locals I've supported, and it's also telling me the text has been cut off. It is telling me which language the text has been cut off. So it's here, it's telling specifically on German it's cut off. All others looking good. German is cut off. So either you have to adjust the text or change the text or change the size for all the devices. I'm sorry, all the languages. You can see here. And then you can also see the colorblind thing. So the other cool feature which I liked as well is this one, where you can see how different colorblind people will notice it. We always have no clues how the background color and the text color are going to match up. There's an app where you can actually enter the background color code and the front text color code to know that. But here I can actually visualize to see it. What if my text color was say green? And you notice that one of the color is actually the button color is green. So that is the person who has that color blindness will have a problem to see the text. So this is a cool way for me to know how my background color and my foreground color should look like. And the last part is the font sizes. So how it's going to look on different devices to know how the font size is looking. So based on that, I can adjust my font for specific devices. That. Let's go to Layout Inspector. So Layout Inspector is something that you can go to use Compose. Most of you probably might be using Android Compose, and Android Compose is fully on Kotlin. You want to see, you build the beauty of the Compose is recomposing. So it or not recomposes the whole layout, it only recomposes part of your layout. So for example, if I want to recompose an image based on some mutable state, then I can do that, right? So only that image gets recomposed, not all the views get recomposed. But how do I know how many times that's recomposing? That I can get from the layout inspector. There is a view called component tree. In that tree, I can set up the recomposition counts to actually see, is it recomposing the number of times I'm expected, or it's recomposing some weird amount of times, which I can fix it by just looking at that. And also you can see the 3D view of your live updates using the layer spacing to get how the view is being built. I for this demo, I actually picked up a code from this GitHub page. So I have mentioned this GitHub. So if you want to just play around, just get this GitHub code to see how Compose looks like. With that, let's look at a quick demo. So here you can see on the right side, I have the Sunflower app where it's having all this list view. And now I want to see whether how many times they are recomposing and how is the layout built. I am going to go to the layout inspector. So you can go to the top bottom corner, launch the layout inspector, or you can go to our usual tools window menu and launch layout inspector. So here I could see my layout inspector showing up with that information. I'm clicking on the component tree. So I can see the each layer from the top level layer to the bottom level layer, how this UI has been built. Looks like originally they used a coordinator layout, then there is a frame layout. Wherever the theme started, it's where it's actually having the compose. And also I can see how many times the text or the sunflower image is recomposed. It's recomposing once, which is good. I don't want it to recompose more than that, which is really nice. And if you go to the right and click on that 3D mode button, you you'd be able to launch the 3D view and go click on the layer spacing. And once you move it, it will actually separate and give you this 3D view of what are the different layers of the compose view are, and even the XML. So you can see from the top to the bottom layer of how it's been built, which is very cool to see that. Let's go to the next one. The Compose preview. So we were talking about Compose preview. Again, if you have used Compose, you should definitely know about Compose preview. XML gives you the design, so you can see how an XML code looks like. But in Compose, you want to see how the layout looks like. You have to give a preview and give information to it. So the new thing they have added in Electric Eel is a live updates. So if you're using Compose Preview, you know that any change you're making, you have to make the change. Then you have to click on the refresh button, which will build and refresh, and then it will show the view. Now I don't even have to do that. I just make the changes and immediately I can see the changes being reflected in the preview, which is so powerful and so useful for developers. Now, apart from that, I also want to see how different devices, the different UI is looking. We did see through emulators, we can launch that, but we can also see through preview. So I can use devices feature to set the ID to say what are the different devices available, different pixel devices, and I can set them to see how my UI looks like in it. But also I can use spec to create custom dimensions. So custom dimensions mainly I would use to see like how it looks on a phone, how it looks on a tablet, or how it looks on a scrollable device. So what if you have something scrollable and you cannot scroll in a preview? So what you have to do it, you cannot see what the bottom layout will look like. Instead of that, you can set up a custom spec and you can give the height to more DP, extra DP. In that way, you can actually see the bottom layout, how it looks like. Let's look at a quick demo. So here is a view. I have a very simple view. This is what when you create your new project in Compose, you would have this, which has a greeting. It says "Hello Android." So now I'm going to go and immediately change the text to DevFest, and you can see on the right panel, it's updating immediately. I didn't have to do any refresh. So I'm also going and play around with the text view, which is inside the function composable function, and I am going to give some modifier values. I'm going to run it pretty quick so we can see what are the changes I'm making. So I made a background color as blue, and then I changed to cyan, and you can see all that is being getting updated. And also I'm updating the font size, which is also gets updated pretty quick. Yep, they did. Then I want to set some column so I can put a button next to it to see how it looks like. And it shows me how it's looking like. Now I want to see how it's looking on like on a phone. So I'm going to set some modifiers. And you can see it's looking on the top left. I'm setting some values to put it on the center. I can see all the updates just instantly. All these updates are just instantly showing in it. You can also go and change that. If you don't want it to do it, you can go to the three dots on the top and disable live updates. The minute you disable live updates, any changes you're making, you cannot see on the right panel immediately. But you can see on the top, which says you're out of date. Go and refresh. So when I refresh, it takes some time. You can see like it takes a couple of seconds to actually go and change the save to click. But when I was doing the other one, live updates, it was pretty fast. So I really like the live updates feature. And the other one we were talking about, I want to see how it supports on different devices. So you can use in your preview, you can call a device and set ID. And once you set ID, it pre-populates. So you can pick Pixel 5, which is the default one, but you can also change different Pixel devices. I don't know if it shows any Samsung devices. I have only noticed Pixel, but that's a good one to go and research. Here I'm trying different Pixel devices. Then now I want to do custom. So that's where I'm going to use spec. So I will use spec, and here it's also giving me that, hey, you want to try tablet and see how this UI looks like. And once I give that, I see it's updating to show how it is in a tablet. So this way, if I have complex UI, it will be very helpful for me to setting up all these dimensions like width and height. Like I said, if your device is a scrollable device, if you want to see the bottom view, you can just go and adjust the height here and adjust the width and adjust the pixel densities to see how your images are looking like. Go ahead and play with it and let me know how do you feel about this. With that, I will give it to Kyle.
All right, I want to do just a quick note on the Android Gradle plugin updates. One thing I said earlier that is, they still are kind of releasing upgrades to the Android Gradle plugins and their APIs alongside releases of Android Gradle. I mean, of Android Studio. And one of the notable ones is with the latest 7.3. I think it was when it was first introduced, and now they're deprecating it in 7.4, and I think it's going to be removed and in 8.0, which is will be the next release. But previously, you had to define packages for your application or your library class via an Android manifest, and every application requires an Android manifest, and the package is uniquely identifies that application. But when you have a multi-module project and you're using Android libraries, or you're releasing an Android library to be consumed by an application, there may be a case where you don't need them, and ours, where we have 20 or so modules in our application, many of the uh, modules have an Android manifest that looks like this, where it solely exists just to define the package. Well, Google has released a new API called the Namespace API, and that's to allow you to basically define the namespace of your module or your application in the Gradle API, or DSL. So it's a lot simpler. You can just if you have an empty manifest that just has a package, you can delete the whole file now, which is definitely great. Um, that's it really for Android Gradle plugin. There's lots of other kind of under the hood releases, but want to talk about like what's coming new, like down the pipeline in Android, and what's F and what's G, and so first thing you will see is with the next release, there's going to be a new icon. Um, Not really sure what the reason for changing it, but they're going to be a new icon. And then as you can see from here, the F is going to be flamingo, and then G will be giraffe. But some things to look forward to. I didn't get into any like demos on this, but just to call out some things I saw that were interesting is themed app icons and dynamic color are coming to the app icon builder and inspector. So you can, if you're using Material 3, where you can Material U, where your application is themed to the user's background and their color scheme that they've set up. It'll you'll see how your app icon will behave to that. Compose tracing, which is pretty neat if you're doing assist tracing and you're trying to understand complex issues with either jank where the screen is lagging, or you're trying to understand recomposition for multiple screens, or as users navigating through your application in a weird scenario and you're using assist trace. The compose tracing will be right there. You'll actually see your composition stack right in the traces. And then the last one that's really interesting is the network inspector traffic interception. So anybody that is familiar with tools like Proxyman or Charles Proxy. We use that a lot in our company, where we're intercepting the network traffic. We may be rewriting a header to point at a staging environment, or we might try to reproduce an error that a user has encountered, and so we will mock out the data or intercept it and replace the values to simulate that environment. While that usually needed a third-party tool and this complex setup of setting up a proxy on our device and installing a certificate, Android Studio is building that right into the IDE. The inspector, where you could see the network traffic before, now you have ability to add rules. You can add items to headers. You can rewrite them. A lot of neat features are coming to there. So take a look at that. I think that is coming to Flamingo, or it will be in Flamingo. And then one last thing to call out: Android and Gradle are working on. I mean, I'm sorry, Android and JetBrains are working on a redesign. We're working closely with JetBrains, working on a redesign of IntelliJ IDEA, and I wanted to give you a. There's not really any official docs on it, but I saw a designer from Google tweet about it, and then some people talking about how they figured out how to look at it, and thought it might be interesting to anybody that might also want to see. So go ahead and play the video. Now there's a way to bring up a registry where there's a bunch of these toggles, and you'll see right away that it says don't do these changes unless you're told to. But we as developers like to tinker, and there's no reason we should listen to warnings like that. So what you'll see is yeah, this is kind of like a sneak preview of what Android Studio is going to look like in the near future. Anybody that's used Visual Studio Code or VS Code, it seems to be like they're taking some design choices from there, going a lot more minimalistic and streamlined, and kind of getting the noise out and getting you down right into the content. So pretty neat. It's easy to switch, but like I said, you might not want to do that in an environment where you're using it every day to day. So I did want to call out one last thing before we conclude, and that's a tool called JetBrains Toolbox. So sweet, if you go to the next slide. So JetBrains Toolbox, I've noticed this is definitely an underutilized tool, at least members of my team have never heard about it until I suggested it. But it's basically a desktop application that JetBrains puts out that allows you to manage your suite of your suite of tools installed on your device or on your machine from them, and it allows you to do things like handle uh, multiple installations across different channels. So Google launches Android Studio, they always are maintaining three channels. They have stable, beta, and canary. So right now, stable channel is Electric Eel, beta is Flamingo, and giraffe is in canary. You can actually have all three of these installed side by side, and you can easily maintain that. Well, you could do that before. There was a little bit more manual work if you had to rename them and or put them install like on a Mac. You had to install them in different directories. This handles all that for you. Some other neat features: it allows you to say you upgraded and your project's not working. There's some error with your project. There's an option in the overflow menu to roll back that installation. So if Sweetie upgraded to Electric Eel after I told her, hey, there's no problems. She upgraded, all of a sudden she can't compile, she can roll back and she'll get right back to work where she was on her old installation. So this is really, to help kind of, take away the worries of migration or upgrading and concerns that there might be an issue. And as someone on the team that tries to be a kind of ahead of the curve of like seeking out these problems, I kind of always live on the beta channel as my daily driver. So I want to see what kind of issues we're going to run into and make sure we have a solution for them before the stable release goes out. And then we now have some developers that updated to it and might be running into issues. So make sure those issues don't exist, or if we can identify them, let everybody know like, hey, don't update yet because we've got to solve a problem with some outdated plugin or something that we're using. um, and then no, another one thing that was nice about the Android Gradle. I mean, the toolbox is you can maintain. You see like a unified project list. So all the projects that you have opened, kind of like the recent projects in Android Studio, but this is before you even launch Android Studio. You can see and you can star them. So the projects that you open up the most kind of stay and live at the top of that list. So that's pretty neat. And then one last thing, having multiple installations and updating Android Studio, they tend to leave a lot of garbage behind. So I wanted to call out a feature that's probably not very well known that was added, I think, in one of like the last 2 or 3 releases, but an ability to clean up old installations. So, Sweet, if you start this, we can see where that is. It should be in the help menu, and it says it'll look for the ID, unused ID or leftover IDs. So I ran it just today on my machine or yesterday, and I had a couple installations that's freed up about 10 gigs on my machine. So um, always good to do that every so often just to see if there's any leftovers that are holding hostage some storage on your device. And I think that concludes our talk.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, want to open up to any questions anybody has in the room or online? We'll be happy to answer them.
No questions, but I wanted to say that this was a
Thank
great
you.
presentation,
Let's
and
see.
me personally being fan of all of the
Sagar, I don't know.
Canary and beta
Cannot
builds,
hear you.
this made so
Can
much
you hear
sense.
Sagar?
And thank you for talking about JetBrains Toolbox. Even I talk about it in my organization
Sagar, we
sometimes to the
cannot
devs
hear
that
you.
this is a really good way to maintain between stable, beta, and Canary.
Kyle, can you
And
hear
Yeah.
the
him or
new
Sweetie?
UI which you showed just now, I just discovered it yesterday in
The
Giraffe
delay.
Yeah, I
Canary
can hear
build
him.
2. They have
There's
made
no
it
delay
easily
here.
accessible from the settings menu, like enable, go to experimental, and then there's a checkbox for new UI, and you can access for
Ah,
that. Yeah, so no
okay.
need of tinkering around with
So you
the
don't need to do the
registry.
registry anymore. Okay, yeah, I think if the registry was in the Flamingo was the only way to get it in Flamingo. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely I'm wondering what release they are going to bring that out in, because it's definitely takes some getting used to, and it almost like they haven't been very public about it yet. So I think it's going to shock some developers. Some will like it, some probably won't. So we'll see. Well, great. Well, I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much. My name was Kyle Lehman. If you ever have any Gradle or Android Studio, or want to talk about cool new features, reach out to me. I'm on Twitter. I think it's in the slides, or if it wasn't, or it's on the the bio screen on for the conference. And Sweetie, do you want to?
Yeah. Thanks, Carl, for co-presenting with me. It's great presenting here. Thanks everyone for attending this. Play around with Android Studio Electric Eel. Try out all the cool features.